What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is the Copa Gloro 2. Let's get these unboxed. Now, I've heard a lot of really good things about the Copa Gloro 2 because of sort of the, I guess, failure, you could say, of the Gloro 1, which I actually have here as well. So we'll take a look at what some of the differences are. But here is the Copa Gloro 2 in FG. These are the black and white edition. I wasn't able to get any other colorway, unfortunately, but I went with my normal 9 US, a 42 and 2/3, a Japan 27 or 27 centimeters, and a UK 8.5. So here we go, getting these unboxed. Oh yeah, very, very classic. Okay, so here is the Copa Gloro 2, and if we put them right away next to the Gloro 1, you can see some pretty significant changes that have happened to the sole plate and the upper construction, stitching pattern, and just general kind of robustness of the model, which I think is a really positive thing because there are a lot of people who actually really like the Gloro, and I think there's a lot of good aspects about this football boot that I'm hoping translate to the pitch and the playing experience as well. So we'll get that down and throw these guys right there. So here is the black and white Copa Gloro 2. They are a very, very classic looking football boot from the Adidas brand. It is definitely one that suits a little bit more of that heritage style, if you will. Still got the fold over tongue with the elastic around the tongue area, which is great. So you do get the elastic band, nice leather tongue as well, and just a very general and overall well-constructed football boot, at least in comparison to the previous generation, which felt very kind of thrown together, particularly in the sole plate and the heel area. You can see here in the heel area of the first generation, it's actually a fake leather material, which it was so bad from a heel area perspective because regardless of what kind of socks you were wearing, my heel area slid all over the place, which is one thing that they fixed with the Gloro 2. So they went with a micro suede liner across the entirety of the heel area, added a little bit more padding back here as well. So there's actually quite a decent bit of padding, similar to the Copa Icon model, which I actually believe I have a pair right here as well, so you can kind of see. So they've taken inspiration, sorry, this is an absolute mess, but they are very similar from a heel construction area to the Copa Gloro, as you can see there, which is a good thing because the Copa Gloro actually has quite a comfortable heel area compared to a lot of the other Adidas models. I don't know why the 0.1 Copa Pure and the Plus Copa Pure are two different heel areas. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but regardless, you get the better Copa heel area from the 0.1. The Icon is now in the Gloro, which is a really good sign because this first generation was an absolute tragedy to play in because regardless of how comfortable and accommodating the forefoot and midfoot were in terms of shape and overall comfort, the heel area ruined everything for me. The heel area was horrific in this first generation. So the fact that they fixed that is a huge deal as well. From the e-construction standpoint, they do have a couple differences from that first generation as well. So this is the same cowhide leather. This actually feels a lot more premium than the previous generation as well. So I'll take this out and I'm actually gonna tie these up really quick. Throw them in there, and then you do get a little tag on there as well, per usual, but this is the cowhide leather, and it's actually really soft. I'm super impressed with the differences in feeling compared to the previous generation. The previous generation almost felt like a Premier, like it almost felt like a fake leather, and yeah, it's still comfortable, it's still, you know, kind of pliable, and it definitely molds to your foot totally fine, but this leather actually feels a lot more like the Copa Pure line. So the Copa Pure, yeah, Copa Pure line, as opposed to the Gloro and the Icon. I get really confused sometimes between when I talk about this boot, I want to say this boot, and then when I talk about this boot, sometimes I say the Copa Pure, and it's just all very confusing. But they do have 4 different generations if you count the Copa Mundial. So I don't know if there necessarily needs to be a name change around here, but it's Yeah, it's a little confusing. So cowhide leather, very soft actually. I think this is going to feel really nice on feet as well. From an internal perspective, you do have that suede padding that sits in the inside. You'll see some interior shots with the probe lens, which will be good. And then if we can get, that's what the lacing system looks like. And then similar to the Nike Premier, you do also have the Gloro logoing here and then the scissors. So if you do want to cut the tongue, you can always cut it there, and then it will be more like that. So it'll be a little bit more like the Copa Icon or the Copa Pure. I tend to like the tongue. I think it looks really nice. And to be honest, when you're playing in a boot like this, you don't really need to worry all that much about performance, because these are going to be a very solid run-of-the-mill leather football boot, very classic, nice on the wallet as well. So these don't come in outrageously expensive either, which is super nice. The other main update that they made for this generation is actually the Soleplate. And given that's really, really impressive for a budget-friendly football boot. And I think they have done such a nice job compared to the previous generation, which you can literally bend in half. Like, it's completely flexible. There's absolutely no, see how you, when you do that and then it goes like this and then slowly moves back, like there's nothing there. There's no substance there. Whereas these ones actually have a fair amount of snapback, which is a really, really nice thing. And to be honest, especially with a budget pair of football boots, when they went a little bit less expensive on the upper materials, it's really nice to just have a sole plate that I think suits the upper a lot better. That's my one complaint in the similar category with the New Balance 442, even though that's kind of my category leader for the budget football boots, especially in the leather category. And yes, I know they went to a synthetic now, so it's a little bit of a different question. The fact that these still have a calfskin leather or a cowhide leather, and it feels like this, which is pretty insane, to be honest. It feels very, very plush and almost premium feeling, dare I say. But the fact that they went with a more responsive sole plate that actually has some robustness to it is such a nice thing, because again, with that 442, beautiful upper, heel area could be improved for sure, no doubt on that one, but it's the sole plate that just lets that boot down. Sure, it's very lightweight, it's very barefoot feeling when you're playing on multiple different surface types, but for me, that boot lacks a little bit in, well, a lot of it in the sole plate area. And I don't mind that all of these budget-friendly football boots are pretty much conical studs. Premier, Gloro, and 442, among some other competitors out there as well. You could argue that some, maybe the Asics DS Lite Pro series, and then the Mizuno, I can never remember how you pronounce it, you know what I'm talking about. That basically the takedown Mizuno models. Those are all conical studs as well. I don't mind that, but I do think it does a better job performance-wise when brands do put a little bit more effort into the structure of at least the midfoot, right? With these boots, you've just basically got, it feels like you're doing more work because there's absolutely no structure in that sole plate. So overall, very nice, tasteful upgrades for this boot, especially in the budget category. And with leather, I'm honestly pretty surprised that the leather feels like this. It's very, very premium and plush feeling. And almost, I would say, compared to the Copa Icon, dare I say this feels even better, which is kind of wild because this one comes in at such a higher price point. Part of me almost says, hey, instead of making, let's see how these ones are on feet, obviously, but instead of having two different silos, why not make this upper with the tongue with the same heel area, because they're both the same, and then put this torsion frame sole plate on this one, and then just call this one the Copa Icon or Copa Gloro or whatever you want to call, or maybe just, I don't know, the new age Copa. But I think that would be so much better than what they currently have with this particular sole plate. Yes, even though it's an improvement, it's just obviously not going to be as responsive as this one. But from a leather feeling perspective, I mean, that's like, it's pretty different. This one feels a lot softer and more premium. So I'm excited to see what these ones feel like on feet. So without further ado, guys, let's get into the on feet portion of the video, talk a little bit about how they compare to the previous generation, but then also how they compare to the likes of the New Balance 442 and of course the Premier, which are kind of the main competitors, at least in the US and Australia. And then we'll kind of figure out, okay, does this one take the cake now? Because for a budget-friendly football boot, this is the only one that actually has natural leather still. So that might be a huge factor for a lot of people. For me, it kind of is as well. So without further ado, let's hop into it. All right, out here in the backyard with the Copa Gloro 2. Now, I am actually quite excited to try these on, particularly because of the quality of the leather. I really was not expecting it to be this good, let's say, and especially with some of the modifications that they've made to the inside of the boot. You can see basically the entirety of the inside is now this really nice black suede material, and I think that in combination with a softer leather than the previous generation is going to make for a very, very nice, comfortable experience, especially at this price point. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the on feet. Here we go. All right. Ooh, very nice. Sizing is perfect. That's a 9 US, and you've got just a tiny bit of space on the end, which is no problem at all. Yeah, these are really, really comfortable for what they are. Much more comfortable straight out of the box than the previous generation, and I can already feel my heel area kind of sinking in and really digging. Digging is the wrong word. Really getting secure in the heel area. And if I tie the laces as tight as I can without completely destroying my feet, I'm already feeling like these are going to be an absolute winner when it comes to comfort and performance for this price point. Yeah, wow. I'm actually really surprised by these in a lot of ways. But to be fair, it feels like it's one of those things where sometimes brands go forwards, sometimes brands go backwards, and it's not often, I don't often expect a brand always to move forward. It's particularly because a lot of these big brands like Nike and Adidas often will change boots just for the sake of change and for the sake of tech. I think Nike in particular is sort of a prime example of that, whereas it feels like with this boot, they took all the things that worked for the Copa Gloro 1, which was none of it, and they, except for the fold-over tongue maybe, that was the shining thing out of that boot, and they've now created something that is a lot more comfortable straight out of the box. The suede liner around the entirety of the leather upper and also in this heel area really does give this a fantastically comfortable kind of all around snug sensation, which is really nice. It's sort of like a big hug around your foot, which feels very different from the previous generation. The previous generation felt cheap. It didn't feel very good on feet, and the heel area was an absolute tragedy because of how slippery it was. Whereas these ones feel super locked in for a boot of this caliber, very different from that previous generation. Yes, I am wearing grip socks, so that's going to help, but even with these same WeFoot grip socks on the previous generation, my feet I could literally do this to the heel tab and basically pull my foot out of the boot even with the laces tied tight, whereas these feel a lot more secure, very locked in, and the leather quality is just miles ahead, in my opinion, compared to that previous generation. So very, very impressed. Here's what the boots look like on feet. Obviously, a black and white football boot with the fold-over tongue is going to look pretty classic, pretty clean, just like the Copa Mundial or the Copa Icon, the original colorway. Obviously, I've got the one with that was like the reverse panda, so the white with the black colorway. But these look, they look the part. They're very classic looking. I would like to get a different colorway. I'd like to see what they look like on feet with a blue or one of the other colorways that I wasn't actually able to get my size in because of the price point. They're actually quite popular, especially here in Australia. And so it's really hard to find the Gloro in any color other than the classic black and white, because anything other than black and white sells out almost immediately, which is kind of fair, to be honest, because these boots are a huge upgrade, it feels like. They are actually very, very comfortable, and the Soleplate feels a lot more responsive compared to the previous generation. No, it's not going to be insanely responsive compared to the top end boots on the market. You know, anything from, let's just take the Adidas brand, for instance. The Copa Icon has the torsion frame sole plate, which is a lot more responsive than something like this, but it is still much better than the previous generation. Now, touch on the ball is to be expected. Very plush, very nice and soft, and the leather quality feels honestly very good. I think this takes the cake for me as far as touch on the ball. It's not maybe as soft and as premium feeling as the Copa Pure upper, but it is very, very close. And if you're gonna buy a leather football boot and you want that kind of nice, plush, soft feeling, these might be the way to go, as opposed to going for the Copa Icon, which is a lot more expensive. Yes, you do get a nicer sole plate, but these ones feel a lot more connected to your foot, whereas the Copa Icon, if you guys haven't seen my playtest, you guys can go check that out now on YouTube. That one felt almost disconnected from the ball because of how thick the upper is, whereas these ones, yes, are a little bit thicker on the thicker side, but they're just a leather football boot as opposed to being leather plus a bunch of padding on the inside. These ones feel much more connected, and as you can see, look at the softness of that forefoot. Like, very, very easy to move my toes up and around, and it's a little bit of a damp day today, so if I was to go out to the pitch right now, I bet these would break in perfectly in my first session. To be honest, I'm having 0 hot spots as it is right now, which is very impressive for a boot like this, but you can expect really good comfort, pretty good performance out of this boot. I can tell straight away how much better these are than the previous generation. And in my opinion, these, I think, might be the new benchmark for what the best budget football boot is, in my opinion, because these are so much better than the Premier, in my opinion, and they're so much better than, well, they're maybe not so much better than the New Balance 442, but now that the 442 has gone away from leather, I think these take the cake. You get a really nice and soft calfskin leather or cowhide leather, and then you get the fold-over tongue, which obviously just looks really cool, and a really comfortable heel area, and a pretty responsive sole plate. At least it's more responsive than the 442 and the Premier, in my opinion. Any other boots in that category that I'm forgetting from a budget perspective? I don't think so. I think those are kind of the main 3. Now that Puma doesn't really offer any budget-friendly football boots, unless I'm completely forgetting one of their lineup. But yeah, that's kind of, that's gonna be the competition for this one. So in my opinion, at least of right now, I haven't tried the synthetic 442 yet, but my brain goes, if you're gonna buy a budget football boot and it wants to be leather, you buy this one. And I think this one, from a softness perspective, from a performance perspective, we'll see. I'll do a play test in these, no questions, and they are already super, super comfortable out of the box. So I think I'm gonna really enjoy playing around with these, particularly because they're just gonna be so nice to ping the ball. It's gonna be so nice passing in and around with the, with the walls, and probably striking as well is gonna be really nice with these, because that upper is so, so, so soft. It is like massively impressive how soft this upper is, considering the price point of these at like 150 Australian dollars. So they're like right around 100 to $130 USD. This is a great football boot for that price point. So if you guys are looking to buy a pair of these, I will see if I can find some links for them for you guys down in the description box below. Obviously, I'm sure any major retailer will have them as well, but these are a winner in my opinion. Copa Gloro 2, Adidas, nice job. I'll give you guys one last little look at them on feet. The tongue design does look really cool. If you aren't a fan of the tongue design, then that's great, because they design it so that you can cut the tongue off if you want. But overall, I'm really impressed with these boots. They're really, really comfortable. I'm honestly a bit surprised based on how the previous generation felt, and I'm really looking forward to using this as my new budget-friendly recommendation, because I do think that this is absolutely the best budget-friendly football boot on the market right now, at least under that sort of $150, $130 price point in USD. So that's gonna wrap up today's video of the Copa Gloro 2. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Some discount codes for you guys. Some really cool brands like WeFoot and Miter have hooked us up with some discount codes, so you can find those in the description box below. And it also helps out the channel, and you get some pretty awesome products out of it as well. As always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.